Okay. And hello, welcome back to Guitar Talk. We're on, I don't know what episode, but quite a few here now. Today, well, first of all, we'll start off by saying that piece I just played by Rush called Tears. It's a great piece. I'm going to be going through that one here in maybe a couple episodes on the chordings and some of the stuff they used on that one. It's a great piece for, finger picking, how to use some open chords and good strumming, and how to strum lightly and not play hard where you got to really beat the heck out of it, because it's really a piece where it's just a light brush of the pick. So we'll get into that later. Today I wanted to talk about some stuff that I do in the band, Inspector 12, some stuff I play on stage, and some of the more intricate songs that are got some guitar in it that's really interesting. And so I picked out three that I thought I'd mess with for you today. So first one we're going to get into would be the Jump by Van Halen, which is a lot of keyboards, but there's a lot of guitar in there. If you really sit and listen to it, you can pick it out. This would be the 83 release that they did, and this was their only #1 hit, by the way. And Eddie played this on an Oberheim keyboard that he had back in his home studio at the time, like an OBX model, something like that. Now the solo on it, Eddie claims it's his favorite solo that he never wrote, and he says that because when he did the solo, he played it, and then he was done. Well, apparently the technician went in and spliced together 3 different parts of a solo and kind of mismatched it. So the arrangement that you have isn't actually Eddie's idea, but the producer's idea, which I didn't know. It was pretty interesting. And also, Eddie told, I guess, Hall & Oates that he stole the keyboard riff from one of their songs, Kiss on My List, which I thought was pretty interesting that he would borrow that, and I guess they don't care, so we'll get on with it. Songs Out of C basically starts out with the keyboard, of course, and back in that day, nobody was happy that Eddie was playing keyboards. Dave Lee Roth, he wasn't happy about it. Templeman, he wasn't happy about it. Nobody was really thrilled, but personally, I think Eddie was trying to move on with some of the other arena rock bands that were using a lot of keyboards and having them type songs where they could get that top 40 or that #1 hit, and it worked. They got a #1 out of it, and got a lot of play on MTV at the time too. So there you go. Basically, again, it's out of C, so it just starts out with the keyboard, the main riff, and then you go to F G. So it's basically he rides the C as you're going. Then he'll play your F and G like that. And a lot of times when I do it, so that I get so I can get away from the keyboard mid-range a little bit. I'll jump up and play it up here because it kind of keeps me out of Eric's area and keeps him clean and keeps me a little more away from his keyboard range. So I'll kind of play it there, and you know, a lot of times I'll play it there too. Depends on how many Coronas I've had, or you know. So again, it's just basically a C there. You can do it here. Either way, quite simple so far right there. Now you get to the middle where the bridge is. They come out of that F and G. The bend I can't do quite as well on here because it's an acoustic, but it's basically just a simple bend. Then he does he's basically just, he kind of mutes it a little bit. And that's kind of what he's doing there. And again, there's a lot more guitar, you know, going on in that song than you would think if you really listen to it, especially in some earbuds or something. So again, he does the bridge, just bends it out of the A pentatonic. I'm gonna, instead of bending, I'm gonna slide it up so you can tell what it sounds like. So that's basically the sound you're looking for. Then he kind of pinches that harmonic there. Then the last time he goes to the B string on the 10th and 8th fret. And he kind of uses a, I don't know if it's a flanger or something, you can hear it, something kind of kick in there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And that scale's basically, it's an F, so you got an A on the 8th fret, then you got D on the 7, and G on the 5th, and just kind of mute it. So the only thing you're really moving would be the A string goes down to the 7th fret. Like that. And again, the last one, he does the mute a little bit. On the B. He does a big old scrape, pick scrape there, so it's... So there you go. That's basically your intro, simple stuff, just your C, F, G, and then your little pentatonic bend there on your. So you got, or you can do it here. Again, I try to do it there to, you know, to give the keyboard some breathing room, because this here. And the reason I do it that way is if I do it here along also with the bass, it kind of muddies up the low end. So I kind of stay away from that a lot. You'll see me do it here. That way everybody's got their own range. Kurt's got that low end note. Eric's got a lot of the mid-range eating up on that, and I'll just come up here. And you can do it that way. You can add the B on there with it. And sometimes I'll do it with the Strat, with the whammy bar, and give it a little flavor, you know. And again, the break in the middle, the bend with the, and the pentatonic. I can't bend it all the way with the acoustic because these are mediums, so it's so it just gets you to pitch. And he says, "Might as well jump right there," and goes into the chorus. And that's pretty much it until we get to the solo, and we'll do some solo here and see how that goes. And that's basically the whole song is just to get the keyboard with that C. What I'll do when I'm playing is I'll kind of back the volume up off of it, just keep that little rhythm going. And I don't drive it too hard because it's mainly keyboards, so I'll back the volume down on it and just keep that going there. Then I'll crank the volume up a little bit on that little bridge part, on that, because that does get a little louder when that comes in on the, if you listen to the original recording. So yeah, let's move on to the solo. Again, the solo, if you listen to it, it's in pieces. You can hear like where the next part overlaid the next part, hence the reason I was explaining earlier with the where the producer went in and spliced together what he thought was a good solo, and Eddie just said it was the best solo he'd never written. So I thought that was kind of funny that he would say that, but that's typical Eddie. That's just how he is. He doesn't let stuff like that bother him really. I mean, you know, he's one of those guys, you know, who cares? I just play, and that's what I've always liked about Eddie. That's just how he plays. That's how he sounds, and it's just the way he is. He's one of those dudes you want to just, you know, hang out with and drink some beer out in his garage and just pick and jam. That'd be really cool to be able to do that. So, solo, what it does, it starts out in A sharp. It's a complete key change for the band. Everything goes up a half step. So what you do, you'll start out with this note here, and that's you kind of want to pinch it a little bit with the electric, but again, I'm doing it on the acoustic so we can really, you know, hear what's going on with this solo. So basically, it's just and when I hit that note, and when I play it live, and we're doing the 18th fret, by the way, on the E, I'll kind of get the meat of my thumb under that pick when I hit it, and you'll get that harmonic when you hit that note. Real important, that note's, you want to make that note stand out, especially when you start the solo, because that's what you hear when that solo comes out. You hear that big, you hear that. So you want to make sure you get that note good and clear. And what he does, he just hits that note, and he slides down to the 6th fret. Is what he's doing there. And he does another little pinch harmonic on the G string on the 6th fret. So you get. Then he kind of vibratos that after the pinch. And that's basically just a little pentatonic. And he does kind of pinch the note before that too a little bit with the harmonic. So you might want to try to get that in there too. So let's go ahead and do that up to speed. Just the first part of it. Just, you know, this. All right, do it again. So there's your first part. And again, that's in the pentatonic scale in the 6th to the 9th fret. And that may not be exact. That's kind of how I do it. I've got the tablature somewhere, but that's kind of how I play it. So, and you got to get that little harmonic there. So now the next part's a little trickier. It does have some good bending in it with the harmonic, the artificial harmonic. So what he does, he's still on that G on the 6th fret. And that's what he does next. Then he goes to the D and bends it, so it's. So it's. So you got. So you got your A on the 6th and 8th fret. And I get to that low E on the 9th and kind of hammer the vibrato on there pretty heavy. So let's go through those three grips there. So it's so there's your first 3 parts. And what I did when I learned the solo, like I was saying, it's if you listen to it, the parts overlay each other, like when he changes positions, because they splice the solo together. So you can really, so some of these parts you got to hurry and get out and get to the next positioning. So it'd be hard to duplicate it like it is on there because they overlay, like I'm saying. So. And then the next part coming up, of course, is the famous Eddie tapping that he does so well. Now what this is, and again, this whole solo is a half step up from A, so almost everything you're playing is in a sharp position, half step up, sharp from the A, however you want to explain it. Now what he does here, you got a high E tap on the 13th fret, 9th fret, 8th fret, and 6th fret with your other twos. Like that. Pretty simple stuff. Now what makes it difficult is getting out of some of these positions and getting, to the tapping and, to these other pieces. So, and again, once you start that tapping, it's the same way. He goes to the B and then he goes to the G string. So he does the same thing on all three strings when you do that. So it's then he kind of slides up on the G on the 8th fret when he's done real quick, and you got to do that quick because you got to get out of that and get to this next position. So it's because what you do when you do that last note there, that's your setup for the next position that's coming up, and that's kind of why I did it there. So I'm ready to shift into the next position of this scale that's coming up, which is kind of that little trickiest. I think it's probably the trickiest part of the solo. That and the part at the end with the legato or the hammer-on at the end. So let's go ahead and do from the beginning, go through the tap, and we'll stop there. So. So there you go. There's your first part of that solo with no distortion, no hiding anything. I'm showing you exactly pretty much how it goes, on the acoustic. So we'll do it one more time. And he does kind of, on that last note, I don't know if he's whammy barring it or just vibratoing it with his hand, but it's a pretty heavy vibrato at that point. So. Now this next part is kind of an arpeggio. He kind of slides up and he mutes it a little bit. So there's the first part of it. It's that easy way to remember it. It's the old Stairway to Heaven chord. He just, again, we're working in a half step up, so it's the same chord. He just slides it up as maybe an arpeggio sort of. And you want to separate this note. You don't want to just go, it's why it's kind of an arpeggio. It's separated. And you want to mute it just a little bit. And that's what he does right there. So there's the next part of it. Again, it's just a chord, and then you do the high E on the 8th and 9th fret. So it's that last note. You could slide it up, or you could just pick it. You might want to slide it up because the next part you want to get ready for this next part that's coming up, and that'll set you up a little bit better than just trying to pick it all. So let's go ahead and work up through the solo all the way to that point, and then we'll get into the next part of it. So. So there's your next part. So So after that part, when he does the, what he does, he kind of hits that note, and then he kind of, his hand kind of slides up. So you got, and that's the next part. And after he does this part, you can hear his, clearly hear his hand on the high E go way up. So it's way up. You can hear it like it's a kind of sound. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you want to get that all the way up. So we'll go through it again. Here we go. And I'll slow it down a little bit. That way we can see exactly what's going on here. And so once you hit that, you want to slide that up the best you can. You can, again, you can clearly hear him do that in the recording. So if you're trying to pick it out as closely as you can to the original, you want to get that in there. So now this part and this part goes by a little bit quicker than I'm doing it, but I'm just showing you, you know, a little bit slower so you can pick up what's going on. So that's about the tempo of it when he does it on, when you're playing it live. If you play this in your band, or if you're just jamming around with it a little bit. So that's all pretty much one quick movement. You want to try to do that all together. Shit. And then get that all in one good fluid movement. And that's one thing about this solo when you're doing it. If you hit a bad spot or you lose track where you're at, it's kind of tough to pick up where you left off, if you know what I mean. So you want to try to, you might want to, you know, really work on this one to make sure you've got it down really well. So again, let's try it from the top. We'll get about a medium speed and. Now the next part be a little tough to do on here, but it's pretty much some hammer-ons. The scale starts in the 15th fret on the A string. So you got 15, 16, and 18 pretty much is how it goes. The tricky part is that he does it in, he'll play it like, he does like the first two, and then there's like a slight breath, like where he just takes a breath is the best way to describe it. The guitar breathes for just a second because they don't do it completely all the way through. There's a slight little break in it, so it's and that's how it ends. It's the same thing. So it'd be 15, 16, 18. I'll pick the notes so you know exactly what it is, but it's all hammered on, so it's. So there's your scale. So now what we'll do, and basically that's from what I can tell is some kind of a scale out of C. So I can't be that technical, but I can tell you it's something from C. So let's go from this part. So as soon as you slide up, get your hand back ready here to get that going. And what he does the first two, and there's a slight breath. He's stopped for just a second. And then he just kind of hits that last note and rides it out. Now what I do when I play it, personally when I do it live, I do it that way and just... and what I'll do is keep that note going a little bit to sustain some extra oomph in it, because that's right there is when the keyboard solo comes in. Eric, when he gets into his keyboard solo, I'll keep that as kind of a a melody for the background while Kurt holds the low end on it. So you got the now if you could pick it if you wanted to. If you wanted to pick it that way, it'd still sound good. I'm pretty sure Eddie does it as a hammer-on, but it doesn't sound bad if you pick it either, if that's the way you like to do it. You know, you can do it that way. You could do it that way. You know, picking it, I don't know, that sounds pretty good too, if you prefer to do it that way. So let's go ahead and do it from the, start out from the beginning and run through it. And again, that's a harmonic. Kind of hard to get that on the acoustic, but you know where it's at. So he bends both of those there. And pretty good vibrato on that. You want to do that pretty heavily there. So. Then you got your hammer on. And that's pretty much how you do the solo and jump. Again, it's pretty straightforward, the rest of the song. At the end, there is a little small solo. He does that. Just a little one-string little thing. Personally, when I do it live, I try to throw in a little tap with that, so I'll do. I'll throw that in right there. And just make it a little bit more interesting, just to make it, you know. But that's all he does at the end. He just does a little, like a little melody type thing along with it. Pretty easy. And again, if you want to do like I do, sometimes I'll throw in a tap on the 12th fret with that and the D string. It actually sounds pretty good, you know, once with the keyboards and everything going, it sounds pretty cool with that. But, and that's personal preference if you like to throw in your own little thing here and there, which, you know, personally I like to try to throw in something of my own every once in a while just to keep it interesting, or, you know. So before we go on break, let's go ahead and let's do the solo one more time. We'll go on break here. High E string, good vibrato. You want to get that pretty heavy and make that note pretty loud. So then you get to your hammer on. And you end it right there on the 15th fret on your high E. And again, I'll keep that, sometimes I'll keep that going, you know, as Eric enters his keyboard part, keyboard solo, just to give it a little overlay. So there you go. There's the first half of Guitar Talk with your Van Halen lesson with Jump. back to Guitar Talk, and we're going to break the second song down on the second half of the show here. This is another personal favorite of mine. We've played this one, gosh, I think since the beginning of Spectre 12. It's one of my favorites. You never really hear a lot of bands play Foreigner. They're pretty difficult to pull off. At minimum, you got to have a keyboard player. I mean, pretty much. I mean, you could probably do it if you do it your own way, but if you're trying to, duplicate the original the way people are used to hearing it and comfortable with hearing it the way, we try to, the way we do it, you want to try to get it this way. So next song we're going to break down here today is Blue Morning by Foreigner, and that's off of, it was their sixth top 40 hit off of Double Vision, written by Lou Gramm and Mick Jones. And this song's also, if you on Rock Band, it's downloadable if you want to get on there and play it on Rock Band. So it's a pretty cool song. It's got a lot of cool parts, a lot more guitar than you think, a really cool solo. So we're going to break that down. Now we want to give a quick shout out to Paige on her birthday here at. We're doing this down at Skateway G. We're going to be starting here tonight. That should be a good time if you want to. 8:30. Come out and check that out and. Wish Paige a happy birthday and everybody have a good time. So if you get out and about, there's a place to be. Come out and wish her a happy birthday. So let's start out. This song starts out with a keyboard pretty much and a guitar. Kind of a rare thing just for those two to be starting it out, but that is how it starts out. Starts out with some octave notes, on the guitar. There's probably a couple different ways you could play this, but the way I do it is just what's comfortable for me. It starts out of B, and it shifts in half steps. So your intro, the sound that he's using is pretty straightforward. Mick was usually, he used a Les Paul a lot, Black Beauty. He used straight into pretty much any English amp, the Marshalls and some of the other ones, some of the Vox amps. And I thought he had a great sound. He was a studio musician, I think before Foreigner, so he's a really polished player. If you really listen to his playing, he's really a great player. And as you well know, Foreigner's got some great music, a lot of great songs. So starts out in B. Again, this is an octave type note that I do on this one. Again, I use my pinky when I do this because when I use if I do it this way, my hand tends to feel like it's cramping up. This way it's more comfortable for me. So if you want to do it this way, that's fine, but I do it with a pinky. Whatever works for you. Starts out with this, pretty straightforward time signature. And it's got a little bit of I think it might have a little bit of a chorus on it. So if you want to check it out, that's pretty much how he's doing it. Again, it's just the A string and the G string, and you play this as an octave. So it's just, and I'll do it slower. So it starts out this way. And it jumps in half steps. So it's... Now that one there goes a step and a half up, and those go up in half steps. And that's how it starts out, and then a big vocal comes in right behind that, the harmony. And I'm sure you could do that as a one string too, but I like to do it as an octave, kind of fills it in a little bit. And that's your intro, pretty much how it goes. Interesting thing about it is as soon as the singing comes in, the guitar drops out. It's on this part. It's vocal and keyboards and bass. and drums, of course. So that's your intro. And it comes in with the main riff where the singing comes in. And again, on the first part of the very first verse when the singing comes in, there is no guitar. For some reason, they left it out, which is kind of cool, because when it does come in on the second part of the verse, it really gives it a lot of grit, a lot of feel. So when he comes in finally, he's just basically doing some one-line walking. You're going your F sharp, A sharp to B. And pretty much the bass and the guitar are together on this part. So, and you go to your B. And that's how it's going on the verse. F sharp, A sharp, B, D, B, A, C sharp, G, B, D. It just repeats. Then it goes right before the chorus, he hits the chords. Right before it starts singing Blue Morning. So it's out on the streets, 6 a.m., another sleepless night. Pretty simple once you get comfortable with it. What makes it not simple is the part where on the second verse they're playing that, but then you got 3-part harmony going with the voices, and that's something me and Kurt worked hard on to get that right, because you got to be able to do that and do your harmony shifts with your voice. So we do a really cool vocal harmony right there, 2-part, and play that at the same time. That's what makes it a little bit more difficult right there when you're doing that part. So you just got to kind of get to where you're not looking at it and be able to do it. Once you're comfortable with that, you can do your vocal right before the chorus. Then he goes into the chorus, which is basically a hard driving bar chord in B, Blue Morning, G, Blue Day. Now this part here, where it says "Won't see things my way," is an F and a G and an F sharp. And there's a couple different ways you could play it. You can do Blue Morning, Blue Day, and the F sharp. That's one way that he does it. Now, if you listen to in the earbuds real close, you can hear another guitar. He's doing Blue Morning. And that part there, you don't want to do it every time because it's a cool part. So what I'll do is I'll rotate it with the part Eric's doing when we play it live, and I'll kind of do it every other time. So you got. And that's basically just a high E7, B6, G7, and you just slide it down a half step. So it's Blue Morning, Blue Day. And you want to kind of vibrato that last note a little bit. And then you just go right to Blue Morning, can't you see? And there you go. That gets you through the intro, into the verse, and right back to the beginning again. So let's go ahead and do, we'll do the beginning, and we'll do the, where it goes into the verse. I'll skip the verse where there's no guitar. I'll just go right into it, and that way keep it rolling. And then we'll go to the chorus. So it's... right back to the beginning, as we've already done. Now, at that point right there, a lot of times on stage I'll throw in our quick tapping right there. What I'll do is I'll get to that octave G, and it's just for show. It's not, and I'll do a quick thing right there, which I just throw it in for the heck of it, but that's just me. So it's, then it goes again to the next verse. He's playing the same thing again, and I'll do it one more time. This time when it comes around, this is where the two-part vocal harmony is. So you're, like again, me and Kurt at this point are singing two-part harmony and playing that, which can be a little difficult unless you've done it as many times as we've done it. So the thing is, when you're doing it in harmony, you're listening for your pitches to make sure they're correct. So it's hard to pay attention to this. You just got to make this, finger memory, so you've done it so many times you can just feel it, because that part's real easy to mess up if you don't work on it, if you're trying to do the backups at the same time. So the backups change on the A and on the G. I think that's where they shift the vocal harmony. So then it goes again to the chorus. So it's, and again, they don't do this every time. A lot of times he'll go, so again, you don't want to do that every time, because you'll wear it out. You don't want to, because it's kind of a cool addition, so you want to save that. Me and Eric, we checked that part when we first started working on it to make sure it was correct, and that we weren't walking on each other. I wasn't walking on him, and so that part there is pretty correct if you want to get that in there. So that'll take us to the solo. I've seen a few different people play this solo in different positions, and they could all be correct. I mean, it's personal preference. What I like to do is I play it on the high E, starting down here on the 5th fret. And that's how I start the solo out. So it's, and I'll do a little slide down to the B on the 3rd fret. And that's how I start the solo out. And that's pretty much how he's doing it on the, he makes it sound on there. He could play it in a different spot. Depends on what's comfortable for you. I like to do it there, because that sets me up for my slide down that I like to do. So it's, and I kind of do a little pinch harmonic in there a little bit. Vibrato that B on the 3rd fret, fairly heavy right there. So we'll come out of the chorus into that first part of the solo. Now, interestingly, on that solo, again, the intro was B in half steps. What they did on the solo is they dropped the whole progression and started out of F sharp. So basically what the rhythm section does when a solo starts is drop to here. So it's really cool feel the way they did that too. They dropped it from B and then dropped it right into F sharp, which is pretty cool. So you got and there's your drop. You can hear it. It's the same. It's the exact same thing. They just play it out of F sharp instead of starting it in B. There's nothing different. The chords are the same spot and everything. So. Now the next part is kind of a broken up arpeggio, which is basically just an F shape in the 14th fret. So you got, I'll play that into that F shape arpeggio. So it's. And that's the next part of the lead. So it's. So let's review the first part of it. High E string, 5, 4, and 2, and then hammer back open on it, on this part. No open, sorry about that. One more time. And I like to slide down to that. I don't like just to hit the note. Which you could, but I like the feel of getting that little extra something in there. And I'll hit it, and then you'll hear me slide it up, and you hear a little rip when you slide it up. So it's. And that's the third part of the solo. So we'll do it up to speed real quick. So. And the next part is the same thing again, but this is where he throws in the open E that was mentioned too early there. So it's. So it's. Now, again, he just does it with the open E this time. So it's. And he just does that there. What I do here, when I do it live, I'll throw in a tap on this, of course, to give it my own style. So it's. So he does that on the 12th, 10 on the high E, 12th, 10 on the B, and then 11 on the G. So it's. So let's take it from the beginning of the solo. So there's your next part. Now what I'll do on that part is throw in the tap real quick instead of just doing that. And other nights, depending on what mood I'm in, I'll just play it as per the recording. So it depends on what's going on. If we've had free drinks and everybody's feeling good, it depends. So. And that's the last part of the solo right before the chorus. So it's. Now that part, he slides up to the 14th fret with the high E with the B. So you slide up and stop at the 14th fret. 16th, bend it. Then B, 17, bend it. And then you got 16, 17. So it's. And then the chorus. So let's review the whole solo. Here we go. Again, the whole solo drops to an F sharp. It's the same thing as the intro of the song. Just same pattern, same positioning, just drops to F sharp instead of B. So it's then right back to the chorus. And from there you think, well, that's the end of the song, but no, there's some more, a couple more interesting little guitar parts he throws in that are really cool. Starting on the last chorus, blue morning, then he goes to G. So it's blue morning, and that's a little part that he does, and that's crucial. I mean, if you're playing that song, you want to throw that in because that's, everybody remembers that little lick in there. It's really prominent in the song, so you want to get that blue morning. Now what you can do on that, hit your open G. And that's what he does right there. So you got 7th on the E, 8 on the B, 6 on the B, half step up to the 7th fret. Now the second time he does it, so let's do that. So there's the first one. So he goes up, and what he does here, it's the same as that little one we did earlier, but it's up a step, half step. So there it is. So what you do is you want to do this one first, and then he goes into this one on the 17th fret. It's basically an F shape, but he kind of splits it up, kind of arpeggiates it a little bit. So you got, here's both of them together. Blue morning. Blue morning. So both of them together. So there's both of them together. Now what I do when I'm playing that, being I'm the only guitar player, I'll drop out of the rhythm for a second because it's kind of a waste movement to try to get back into the rhythm part. So you got to go blue morning, then do this. Instead of going to the B bar chord that's coming, I'll just hold that note and get ready for the next one. So it's blue morning. Because I'm only dropping out for a second, so it's not really noticeable. So you got. And the next time, after this one, he goes back and does the first one again. And you go right back to the intro. So. Then you got your ending. And that's how they do their ending. Now, here we'll go over that ending one more time just to make sure. So you got the last, back to the beginning, into your ending. And basically that's a scale of following half steps or whole steps. There's a couple different ways you can do that ending. A lot of times what I'll do is slide up to the G here and just start on the or on the B right here. And that's where your song ends. So do that again with the ending. And you got to throw that in, get that ending correct, and that's been your guitar talk lesson with Foreigner's Blue Morning from Brian and Inspector 12. Hope you enjoyed it.
Another sleepless night. 3 cups of coffee, but I can't clear my head from what went down last night. I know we both have our own ways, but somehow we keep it together. You hear me talk, but you don't hear what I say. I guess it don't even matter. Good morning, good day. Won't you see things my way? Good morning, can't you see what your love has done to me? I've always listened to your point of view. My ways are tried and bad. I've always been a patient man, but my patience is reaching that. You tell me you're leaving, tell me goodbye. You say you might send a letter. Honey, don't telephone, you know I won't be alone. I need someone to make me feel better. Good morning, good day. Won't you see things my way? Good morning, can't you see what your love has done to me? Good morning, good day. Won't you see things my way? Good morning, can't you see what your love